Should you buy Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain in 2022? I played Metal Gear Solid 5 back in 2015 and was left with more confusion than satisfaction, but I always wanted to go back to it but never found the time or excuse to do so. So when one of my subscribers suggested it and reminded me of its existence, I got hyped, and here we are. I wanted this review out yesterday, but 19 hours of my footage ended up being useless, so I played Phantom Pain for about 32 hours before reviewing it. So yeah, I've played a good amount, played a very good chunk of it, so here it is, let's get this review done. No spoilers, and you can skip to the bits you care about using the timestamps down below. As always, let's start with the story, this weirdly amazing, stupid, over-the-top and sometimes pretentious story that still leaves me confused, but this time oddly satisfied. Metal Gear Solid 5 has one of the weirdest stories I've played, but also has some of the most over-the-top, badass lines and camera work I've seen in a game. One minute we're in an epic superhuman-like story, breaking out of a hospital, and then the next we get a puppy, and for a second it turns into the bloody Lion King. This story is insane. I still don't fully understand what the story is even about. The obvious bits is themes like revenge, it's the whole driving push for the story, it's like the villain wants revenge, and you know, your main character wants revenge, big boss, it's all there, but then it turns into something about the importance of language or lack thereof, and then at the end of chapter 1, it turns into some sort of character study on the effects of war, and it's just insane. So much gets covered, and as crazy and weirdly structured and like a bit of a mess it is, I genuinely do love it. It's structured like a TV show, which is why missions are called episodes and often end in cliffhangers, but it's one of the most confusing TV shows I've ever experienced, and that is with a script I'm reading right now. That's the best I can do when it comes to writing my thoughts down, articulating them. Hideo Kojima is just a whole different beast, for good and for bad. Now, the fact I don't get the story or understand it to the level Kojima probably wanted me to, I can't call it a good story in that case. It's a bit of a mess and has a lot of filler, which we will get into with the gameplay, but I respect it. There are so many creative decisions that are just risky and so unique that I can't help but respect it, and that is shown mostly through the over-the-top dialogue and the insane camera work that is often used in cutscenes. Something that drives me insane when it comes to camera work in film, TV shows and games, pretty much anything, is when they don't move the damn camera. It's a camera, you can move it, and that is not an issue here. The camera is constantly moving in and out, you get dramatic zooms, creative placements for the start of the shot and where it ends. It's hard to put into words, but it just shows how much care was put into presenting the story, and that is arguably more important than the story itself. Look at Titanic. Everyone knows how that story is going to end, but it's the way the film is presented that sells the story and keeps you invested without getting pretentious or whatever. Basically, I don't like the story. It could have been better, but the presentation is something I really love, and it's something very unique for games. I wish more games that focus so heavily on cutscenes really experiment with the camera, start doing some new stuff with it. I get kind of bored. The Last of Us is looked at as one of the best like movie games, whatever, but even there, the camera work is, you know, it's okay. It's not amazing. It's okay. Voice work is great while over the top sometimes, which you get used to after a couple of hours, which results in some really cool monologues as well as a lot of memes and piss takes because it really is over the top. It's funny when it shouldn't be, but it's entertaining at the end of the day. Unfortunately, Phantom Pain's ending leaves a lot to be desired, and it does seem like something was cut, although apparently Kojima did say Phantom Pain is a finished game, but it doesn't feel like that. I can't talk spoilers in these reviews, so I'll just leave it there. Just go into Phantom Pain knowing you're getting an experience that is unlike anything you've played, but it will feel weird at first. Not as weird as Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which I think is really underrated, by the way. I really like that game. But at the end of the day, Phantom Pain is definitely a Kojima game. It's a Kojima story exploring various themes that sometimes hit and sometimes don't, and I still don't fully understand what he was going for when it comes to the whole language thing. Right then, let's get into the meat, the gameplay. Combat is very simple overall. You spawn in with a selection of the weapons you've chosen, varying from a tranquilizer pistol to an assault rifle to giant rocket launchers, among so many other choices. You'll be sneaking, shooting, and strangling your way through missions that require you to extract, assassinate, or learn intel, as well as other missions that I won't spoil, which all take place in an open world that is really shit. Shooting overall feels pretty good, while a little inconsistent, as the game would be simply way too easy if you could aim with pinpoint precision constantly, and will vary depending on your weapon choice naturally. I'm going to dedicate a whole section to the level design, so I'll quickly mention other aspects of the gameplay, because as there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of stuff. The open world itself sucks. It's really dead and feels like extreme padding and a waste of time almost every time you spawn in. It feels completely pointless and irritating to explore, as I never really shook off that feeling that Metal Gear Solid 5 did not need to be open world, and the way side missions are designed pushed me further and further into insanity because of the open world. Side missions are basically repeats of main mission objectives in the same areas over and over and over again, which really sucks because those areas at first are really cool to explore. The first time exploring them, it's simply amazing. You discover all these secret ways in and you can tackle it in any way you really want, but after you've tackled the same base 10 times, you just get tired of it, and there are over 140 side missions in Metal Gear Solid 5, and I just gave up once I hit side mission 36. I think that says enough, I just got bored. Main missions though are pretty cool, while also sharing similar objectives to side missions, but have cutscenes and some really cool surprising moments that catch you off guard pretty much every time, keeping you on your toes. You also have something called a Motherbase, which requires you to extract personnel and materials while you're on missions to slowly build up your base to unlock new weapons and customization possibilities. And this was really cool at first, but eventually it overstays its welcome, especially when the game starts to tell you that you can speed up the process if you spend real world cash, and that really rubbed me the wrong way. With the home base, there's also a multiplayer element where you can invade other players' bases and they can invade yours, which is really cool, but I didn't spend much time on it as the story itself is already pretty long. Just in general, the home base just got a bit tiresome after a while. You're doing the same thing, you get the same materials, you send them up, you customize your base a little bit, and then you get invaded, you have to take the guy out, and then you go do the same thing, and you know, it's repetitive, but it's nice to have it. You also have buddies like Quiet the Sniper, your horse, and a dog that you can bring along in missions that offer different ways to take out enemies and help you out. But I just stuck with the horse, as the open world is just so boring to play in. It just doesn't help that you're dropped off about 1,000 meters away from where the actual mission takes place, which is just really annoyed me a lot, and it made a lot of the other bodies completely useless. There is also a PvP element to it, but I didn't really play the multiplayer. I'm not even sure if it's still online. I just wasn't that interested in it, to be honest with you. And boss battles are also pretty damn cool, but there's only like 2 or 3 in total, so that kind of sucks. But one of them really made me feel like I was in sort of Transformers movie, which was really cool.
Oh my god!
Right then, level design. This is a chunky one, let's get to it. The level design is simply incredible. Not the open world, but the actual bases in the open world where missions actually take place. That's what's fantastic. I can't talk about every base because there are simply too many to really go into detail, but every single one of them, where the main missions take place, are extremely well designed. There are countless ways to tackle them. You can go in all stealth-like or go in like a crazy murdering psychopath, which is pretty awesome. You can crawl under bases, open locked doors, slide in from the side, take out a camera, snipe from all the way out, like 500 meters away. You could... It's limitless. It does feel limitless. Obviously there is a limit because you've got the game engine, but it feels limitless, and that's the point. This is some incredible level design that accommodates pretty much any playstyle and was really, really impressive. The AI helps the design a lot, as they really aren't your typical dumbass AI opponents you see in most games today. If they spot an ally knocked out on the ground, they will wake him up. If they spot you, they won't waste any time and they will call for backup immediately. You don't get a chance. You can choke them out or extract information from them. You can trick them with dummies of yourself, freaking them out, and when you face vehicles and they spot you, they won't just sit still, they will back off. If you try and get close to put a C4 on them and they spot you, they're actually going to drive away. It's amazing how many games seem to forget basic human thinking when designing the AI. The AI, and it really surprised me I'm going to say this, but it's some of the best in the industry and is leagues ahead of any Ubisoft title, and in some cases better than The Last of Us Part 2, which is a big compliment. There are just so many ways to tackle them, and I promise you, you will never get bored of messing around with them, but they are a little bit buggy. They're not perfect. It's a bit buggy. They will have moments where they're staring directly at you and it won't register, but that's a rarity in this game. Now, I mentioned the open world, and this is where the issue with level design comes in. Phantom Pain relies way too heavily on reusing the same bases over and over again, which results in that feeling of repetitiveness creeping in despite the amount of opportunities you've got to experiment to keep yourself entertained. It's not necessarily a bad thing. The bases are well designed, but it's just extremely lazy to reuse the same places 10 or 15 times for each type of side mission. If they really cared, I would have liked to see some like specific areas made for specific side missions that you can't go to in the open world, but I guess that's asking for too much. Plus I guess it goes against the design philosophy of the open world, but you know, it's not that good. So, should you buy Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain in 2022? Yes, you should. You absolutely should. I think there's something here for everyone, and it may not be your cup of tea, but you will find something. If you put a couple hours in, you will find something interesting that will hold your attention for a minimum 10 hours, because you can just mess around. Might be the buddy system, might be the home-based system, might be the main missions. You may actually really like the story. You know, gaming is subjective. What people like is subjective. Go check out other reviews other than mine. I do think you should buy it. It's pretty cheap right now. I bought it for £8. £8 on my PC, Steam. £8 for a game that I've already put 32 hours in and I'm not bored yet, which is impressive. Thank you for watching.